games have grown up. Their storytelling ability is finally caught up with their technical mastery, and we're now treated to some of the most immersive narrative experiences media can offer. It's no longer all that hard to find quality writing and mature scenarios across both big AAA releases and smaller independent projects. But as much as I love how far my favorite pastime has come, it's always nice to be reminded that video games can also be incredibly dumb. Turnip Boy Robs a Bank is the second crime-riddled adventure from Stussy Kazoo. This top-down, twin-stick shooter is a genre shift from their previous 2D Zelda-inspired Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. It's a lean 6-hour adventure where you as Turnip Boy infiltrate a bank, shake down patrons, steal from vaults, and assault guards, all under the duress of an alarm timer that will spawn infinite resistance once expired, until you find an exit. The bank heist is a war of attrition. You'll bust in and out, venturing deeper each time you return, defeating bosses and collecting money, passkeys, and items that will grant you access to areas with even more valuables. The game's quick loop will force you back to your hideout often, where you can increase stats like damage, the money you can carry, or the alarm timer itself. Melee and ranged weapons come in a large variety, and it's fun to experiment on enemies with what you find. A Weed Whacker melee weapon helped me eviscerate the second boss, but my favorite is a throwable flower petal that unleashes bullet hell in its wake. There are also a number of randomized rooms you can access that hold some cool surprises and challenges. I found a sentient Dark Souls bonfire who lets you trade him reap souls for dope new tracks to add to the game's playlist. It's totally nonsensical, but a cool-ass transaction, and Turnip Boy knowingly revels in that level of joyful foolishness. The adorable character you play is a total degenerate. His constantly smiling face hides a questionable moral compass that's easily exploited by any NPC brave enough to ask for his assistance. As the son of a deceased mob boss, you're recruited by his biggest former rival, a pickle named Dillyteeny, who slowly reveals details about the rocky but ultimately respectful relationship he once shared with your father, and how the current owners of the bank you're robbing may have played a hand in his demise. Side quests poke fun at all sorts of modern cultural touchstones, like artists being offered exposure as payment, or the edgelord fascination with anime and manga. But its tongue-in-cheek writing and completely off-the-rails ending were such a cathartic breath of fresh air, especially coming off a heavier narrative experience. I'd actually just finished Alan Wake 2 beforehand, which is a masterfully crafted and intricate story, filled with twists and shocking revelations. As ridiculous as it can also be at times, it's meant to be taken seriously. Its narrative makes you think and question the validity of the information presented. It's a mystery you participate in, and it weighs on you after it concludes, with an obtuse and heady ending. It's the kind of game you can put in front of any skeptic and declare this is art, as proof of the medium's maturity. And yet, Turnip Boy can address the same themes of loss, evil, and existential dread with talking pierogies and cartoon violence. It's aware of the ills of society, and its commentary on them amounts to little more than a middle finger and a kickflip. It's a much-needed balancing of the bar that can easily send people down a rabbit hole of despair if all the media they consume is too reminiscent of the real world and its failings. We live in a society of rules, and the more realistic our games get, the more they're forced to adhere to them, or explain to us in detail why their world doesn't. But games of the past created worlds with their own rules, with no explanation. In Streets of Rage, you ate a whole turkey out of a trash can because it healed you. And that's all you needed to know. I'm not suggesting that dumber or smarter games are better, but rather both make up a much-needed balance for players to get the most out of each subsequent experience. My good bruv JBait has a video on last year's indie darling Sea of Stars, where he explains a fascinating tenet of game design used by Sabotage Studios, called 132 complexity. What this means is that when crafting the pacing for combat, traversal, or puzzles for the game's dungeons, the developers purposefully scale the challenge to be the most difficult in the middle, so that on the way out, you don't feel beaten half to death, in order to foster a sense of mastery. I think I may have accidentally stumbled into a similar feeling, where the psychological weight of consuming an engrossing, sophisticated narrative is better chased by a lighter, stupider one. Turnip Boy Robs a Bank was a palate cleanser from the tension and drama of Alan Wake 2's plot. Turnip Boy's silly world and offbeat humor is purposefully dumb. It doesn't ask you to think too hard about its mysteries, despite having plenty to dole out. It's an experience you can take at face value and enjoy with minor intellectual investment, which sometimes is sorely needed. With graphical showcases and movie-like immersive experiences around every corner, a super dumb, half-joke of a pixel art video game is genius counter-programming that I think I'll make a habit of seeking out more often.